Good morning. Closing our eyes, taking a few big deep breaths in through our nose and out through our mouths. Taking a moment to check in with how we're feeling today, making sure that we do that throughout our practice. Make sure that we have connected with our bodies. We're listening to what they are asking for, whether it be something that it needs or something that we need to take special care of today. And we'll seal our lips and breathe in and out through our noses. And then we'll just begin little movements in our shoulders. So as we inhale, we'll bring them up into our ears, pulling them back, lowering them down on the exhale, moving around in those shoulders, starting to feel the chest open up. And then we'll go the other way. So we'll pull them back, open up the chest, bring them up, and then down. Let's do one more around. And then inhale, let's bring those babies up for the last time into our ears. And a big exhale, just let them drop. Feel the length in our neck. Good. And we'll just start moving around in our neck. So we'll move our head over to one side now that it's nice and long, and then over to the other side. Nice and easy. Not forcing anything, just getting some movement up in there. One more to each side. And back to the center, and then we'll just go side to side, bring ear to the shoulder, ear to the shoulder. Good. And now let's bring that right ear over toward the right shoulder, and we'll reach the left hand out toward the floor, making that nice and long. Good. And back up to the center, and we'll move over to the other side. So lowering that left ear down toward the left shoulder. Try not to bring the shoulder up to meet the ear, and then we'll reach out that right arm. Good, and back up to the center. Lengthen on that inhale, nice and tall spine, rooting our tails into the ground. And then exhale, we'll just do a little seated twist, turning to the right. Good, and back around to the center. Again, nice big inhale, lengthen in that spine. And then we'll twist around to the left, using that exhale to help get our muscles nice and relaxed so that we can twist a little bit deeper. Good, and back around to the center. Big inhale here. Let's lift those hands up nice and high. And then exhale, let's bring those chests forward, reaching those hands out in front of us. We'll fold forward, keeping those sitting bones down into our mats. And now keep walking those fingers forward. We'll bring our knees down to our mats. Uncross our legs and we'll find ourselves in our tabletop. Fingers are nice and wide. Wrists are underneath of our shoulders. Nice, strong, straight backs. Good. And now exhale. Let's round that back. Tucking the tail, tucking the chin into our cat. And then inhale, dropping the tummy, lifting the heart, lifting the tail into our cow. Good. Exhaling into our cat. Inhaling cow. Good. Moving with our breath at our own pace. We'll just flow into our cats and cows. A few times each. Let's do one more cat and one more cow. Good. And then find ourselves back in our neutral spine. Right here. Nice long back, long necks, pressing into the floor with our hands, opening those shoulder blades behind us. Knees are under our hips. Let's reach the right hand out in front of us. And then press the left heel back behind us. Good. And then slowly we'll lower those buddies down and go to the other side. So lifting the left hand out in front of us, pressing the right heel back behind us, turning that right hip down to meet the left. Coffee cup challenge right here on our tails. And exhale, we'll release back down to our tabletop. Let's go back to our right hand, left foot. Good. And now let's challenge ourselves, see how strong we are in our core. We're just going to lower down the hand and the leg and then lift it back up and see if we can do this without moving the spine. We'll exhale down, inhale up. So we don't want to arch when we're lifting or round when we're lowering. Keep that tummy nice and strong. Inhale up. Exhale down. So we're only hinging at the joints. Good. Let's do one more. This is hard. And exhale. Let's come back down. Let's give it a little bit of a cat and a cow. Move it around. After we sit still for so long, we got to wiggle, right? And then we'll find our tabletop again, and we'll move over to the other side. So left hand comes out, right leg goes back. Finding our balance, our even hips, our strong core. Then when we're ready, we'll just exhale the hand and the knee down, and then inhale it back up. Doing our best to keep our back nice and quiet. Down. Let's do one more. Inhaling up and out. Exhale, we'll come down. And again, let's do a cat and a cow. Wiggle that little spine. Good. And back to our tabletop. And now we'll just come back to a child's pose. So hips come over our heels, arms are out in front of us. We'll sink those chests down nice and low. Good. And now as we inhale, let's come up to our little plank. And we'll flow through our mini series a few cycles through. So little plank here, nice long spine. Exhale, chest will lower down. Good. Inhale. We'll scoop that chest up into a baby cobra. And then we'll press back into a child's pose. Good. Inhale, we'll come up, little plank. Exhale, we'll lower down. Inhale, scooping forward and then up, and then pressing back to our child's pose. Let's do that 2 more times. Inhaling up. Exhale, we lower down. Scooping into a tiny back bend and pressing back to our child's pose. Good, last one. And back to our child's pose. When we're ready, we'll all meet in child's pose. Take 1 or 2 big breaths here. Good. Keeping those hips over our heels, let's walk our hands over to the right, reaching that left hand across our body, keeping the hips down low, lowering the chest. And coming back to the center. Sink that chest down nice and low. And then walking our hands over to the left, reaching the right hand across the body. Good, and back to the center. Arms are out in front of us, fingers are wide, pressing each of those little fingers down into our mat. Pressing, 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 then pull the shoulders away from our ears, away from our wrists. We'll tuck those toes underneath of our butts. Open up those feet and the ankles. And then when we're ready, begin to lift the hips up and away from those wrists, lengthening in the spine, bending the knees. We can even pedal our feet, wiggle our tails. Begin to find our downward facing dog. Shoulders are coming back. Tummies are coming toward the thighs. Noses are coming toward the chin. Good. And now let's walk those hands backwards towards our feet and come into a forward fold. Again, bend the knees round in the spine. Release the head. And then slowly we'll begin to roll our way up to standing. Hands are to our sides, palms facing forward. Hearts are lifting. Body is active and strong in our mountain pose. And let's inhale those hands up high. We'll exhale them down to our hearts. Good. Now I'm going to step forward with my right foot and open myself up nice and wide here on my mat. We're going to work a little sideways. So from here, let's bring those elbows to our ribs. Inhale, nice and high. And exhale into our moonflower, sitting down into that low squat. And then inhale, we'll come up. And exhale down. Good. Lifting all the way up. Using our whole body to lift and lower. Using our breath. Good. One more time. Let's lift up high. And then exhale, we'll sit down into that squat and we'll stay here for a little bit. Good. Right arm will go to the thigh, left arm will reach up and over. Good. And then over to the other side. So left arm will go to the thigh, right arm comes up and over. Let's do that one more time each side. Right arm to the thigh, left arm up. Good. Other side. And reach with that right hand. Good. And back to the center. Inhale, nice and high. Good. Let's point those left toes toward the front or edge of our mat. We'll come to our warrior two for just a brief moment. And then we'll come down to our side angle. So left arm will come down to the thigh. Right arm reaches up, straight up to the sky, or up and over our head. Stacking the shoulders, lifting those ribs. Good. And now lengthening this left knee, shifting the hips. Let's come down to a triangle pose. Good. Gently, we're just going to barely bend those knees so we can come all the way up to a star pose. Arms are up high. Good. Exhale, big wide-legged forward fold from here. Good. Walking our hands over to that right foot. Left hand will stay by the toes. The right hand will come up to the sky. And then back down and to the center. And then we'll go over to the left. So right hand will stay on the foot. Left hand comes up to the sky. Good. And back down to the center. Let's lengthen in that spine. Exhale, we'll lower down a little bit deeper into that fold. Good. And now let's walk our hands around to the right. And we'll come into a low lunge here. Good. Finding our balance, let's lift our hands up high. And now let's do a little twist. So right hand goes back, left hand comes forward. Good. And now the left hand will come down to the floor. Right hand comes up to the sky. Let's lower that right hand down to the ground. We'll lower the left knee into a half lunge. Good. Inhale, those hands up high. Good. Left hand will come down to the floor. Right hand will reach back, and we're going to try and find those toes of the left foot. Bring that foot in towards our bum. Good. Gently release that foot. Hands come to the floor. Tuck the toe behind us into a full lunge. Let's step back, downward facing dog. Good. And let's slowly walk those feet up towards our hands into a forward fold. So now we're on the other side of our mat. Good. Bend those knees. Roll our way up. Hands come all the way to the sky. And then exhale them down to our heart center. Good. Now I'm going to step back with my left foot, open myself up. Good. Elbows come to my ribs. And then inhale them nice and high. And exhale into our moonflowers again. Good. Inhaling up and exhaling down. Do two more. Good. Inhaling, we'll come up. Exhale, let's sit down into that squat again. And now the left arm will come to the thigh, right arm reaches over. Good. And then over to the other side. Stacking those shoulders, sending those butts down. And again, switching sides. Last time, switching sides. Good. And then back to the center. Inhale all the way up high. We'll turn those right toes toward the edge of the mat. Briefly sit in our warrior two, and then come down into our side angle on this side. Whew. I did it. Good. And now lengthening that right leg, shifting the hips back. Find our triangle. Good. Gently bending those knees, lifting ourselves all the way up to star pose. Good. Exhale. Let's hinge forward into a fold. Good. Let's walk those hands over to the left foot. Right hand will stay on the foot. Left hand will come up to the sky. Good. And back down to the center, and then over to the right side. Left hand will stay on the foot. Right hand comes up to the sky. And then back down to the center here. Let's lengthen in that spine, and then fold a little bit further down. Good. Hands find the floor underneath of us, and we'll walk our way around to the left foot into our lunge. Good. Finding our balance here. Let's lift our hands up nice and high. Little twist. Let's take that left hand back, right arm forward. And now let's lower that right hand down to the ground, lifting the left. And now let's come down into a half lunge. So left hand comes down, right knee comes down. We can soften the foot behind us. Good. Inhale, crescent lunge. Good. Let's lower that right hand back down to the floor. We'll reach back with the left. Try and find those right toes. Bring them into our butt. Little quad stretch here. Good. Let's release that foot. Hand comes down, tuck the toes underneath of us. Full lunge now. Let's step back, downward facing dog. Good. Let's inhale forward into a plank. Let's exhale. Elbows come to our ribs. Whole body comes down together, all the way down to our tummies. Soften the feet underneath of us. Lengthen those legs. Hands are underneath of our shoulders here. Pull those shoulders back. We already begin to lift our chests. And now with those hands, let's bring the chest forward and then up into an upward facing dog. Bring that whole spine forward. Good. And then tucking the toes, lifting the hips, downward facing dog. Good. Let's do that one more time. Inhale forward. Exhale, we'll lower down. And then inhale, we'll scoop ourselves forward and then up. Hips are low, low, low to the ground, but not touching. Good. And then tucking those toes, lifting the hips, dropping your microphone. Back to our downward facing dog. Good. And now let's walk our hands backwards to our feet into a forward fold. Good. And now let's open our feet a little bit wider than we normally do. We're going to take those peace fingers and we're going to hold our big toes. Bending those knees, get hold of those toes. We're going to pull those elbows in, opening up that chest a little bit. And then exhale, we're going to begin to lengthen in those legs. Use those hands to help bring our chests down a little bit further. Good. Bending the knees, releasing those feet. Let's slowly roll our way up. We've been upside down for a little bit. Good. Let's inhale those hands up high. Exhale, swan dive down to our fold. If we need to, we'll open up those feet a little bit further, and we're going to come down into our low squat. So from here, if we are having troubles either with balance or with the squat, we can change the width of our feet. We can also use the aid of a wall or a block underneath of our bum to help get those, at least get the squat without having to balance, which is totally fine. Our chests are nice and proud. They're pointing forward. Our elbows are inside of our knees. We can even put our hands together at our hearts to help open up those knees a little bit. The more we can do this throughout our day, the happier our hips and backs will be. Good. Let's place our hands down on the floor in front of us. We'll even walk forward so we can let those knees come down. Nice wide knees here. Soften the feet so that our toes point out away from us. We'll work our way into frog. So our hips can come back. We can see how that feels. We can come forward. Rock back and forth. We can also play with the tilt in our pelvis. So when we come back, if we arch, what does that feel like? When we come forward and we tuck, does that feel better? Or the other way around, how does that feel? And then we'll slowly bring those knees back together, inch by inch. Bring those toes together. We'll sink back into our child's pose. Good. Let's come back up to our tabletop. Pressing those hands into our mat. Knees are under our hips. Let's inhale, lift up the left hand. And then as we exhale, we're just going to bring that arm through and thread the needle, placing the shoulder onto our mat. Hips stay over our knees. And then this right hand has lots of options. It can stay out in front and begin to walk around toward the left to open up those shoulders. We can place it on top of the left hand. After a while, if we would like, we can lift it up to the sky. And then we'll begin to slowly unwind back to our tabletop. Let's do a cat and a cow. And then back to that neutral spine. When we're ready, we'll lift up the right hand, reaching it up to the sky. And then exhale, threading it through, placing that whole arm and shoulder down onto our mat. We can gradually deepen the twist as we breathe by changing our hand position with that left hand, keeping the focus on those hips so that they don't shift off to the Joneses, trying to compensate. Keep that twist in the back. And then we'll slowly unwind. We'll find our child's pose again. Good. Let's swish those feet over to one side. And we'll lower ourselves down onto our butts. We can bring those feet out in front of us. And we'll get them, the legs nice and long. Move those, all of the muscle, so that we can find our sitting bones underneath of us into our mat. Begin to grow nice and tall. And then keeping our hands on our legs, we're just going to slowly walk our way down, bringing the chest forward, like we're trying to smell our feet, bringing those noses all the way towards our toes. Do one more breath. Lengthen on that inhale. Exhale, let's fold a little bit deeper. And then slowly we'll just drop the arms and the head and help ourselves back up to the top. Good. And now we'll bring those knees into our chest. And we can rock onto our backs. Roll up into our little ball. And take this time to give ourselves our little yogi massage. We can rock around onto our mats. Check in with how we're feeling. Good. And now we're gonna cross our legs knee to knee. So we'll take that left leg over the top of the right leg. I'm gonna go this direction so you can see. So what we're aiming for is one knee on top of the other. If this is where we're at and we're a little bit off, it's okay, but this is kind of what we're looking for. And then our hands can come to our shins or to our heels. Notice I'm bringing my shoulders and my chest towards my legs, and then as I relax down, I'm going to bring those legs with me. Good. Let's release those feet. We can unwind our legs. And if we need, we can even just like wiggle them about, little windshield wipers. Give them a wiggle. And then when we're ready, we can bring those knees into our chest again, and we'll go the other way. So we had left leg over before. Now we're going to do right leg over the top of the left. Bend those knees, try and find our shins or our heels, and we'll slowly relax down toward our mat. Feel a nice stretch in our outer hips and our glutes. Let's do one more breath. And then we'll release those feet. We'll unwind the leg. Give ourselves a wiggle. We can move those knees side to side. Move around in those hips. Good. And then we'll bring those feet to the floor, all the way up by our butts, as close to our butts as we possibly can. Our hands can just rest next to our sides, palms up, or if we would like, we can try and grab those ankles or at least touch the heels, or pull those shoulders underneath of us, begin to open up that chest. And now, beginning at the base of our spine, let's tilt those hips and begin to lift all the way up. Into our bridge, lifting nice and high, get everything as much as we can up off of the floor. And then slowly on our exhale, we'll start at the top of our spine, lowering one vertebra down at a time until we get all the way down to our tail, imprinting our entire spine into our mat. Take 2 breaths here. We're going to do that a couple more times. So get ready. When we're ready, begin to tilt those hips, lift everything up off of the floor, and then try and squeeze the thighs together. And then starting at the top of our spine, lowering vertebra by vertebra, that's really hard to say, down to the base of our spine. Give ourselves a couple of breaths. If you would like, we can even bring our knees into our chest. A little rounding. Good. Last time. Tilting the pelvis, lifting the hips nice and high. Those glutes active. Get those tummies active, opening up that chest. And even though we're nice and high on our shoulders, we should be able to still move our head around because we're not putting a ton of pressure on our necks. Keep lifting. And finally, lowering down. One bit at a time. Good job. Bring those knees into our chest. Roll up into our little ball. Good. And now let's open those knees nice and wide. Find our pinky toes, and we'll find our way into dead bug. Lowering those tails down into the mat. Using the weight of our arms and gravity to bring those knees down. Opening the hips a little bit. And then releasing the feet, lifting the feet up to the sky, lengthening all along our legs. You can use our hands to help guide them towards us a little bit. Tiny fold. And then letting those hands reach up. We can wiggle our fingers and our toes. I'll move around in our wrists and our ankles. Krakalasana. And then one more reach. And exhale, we'll lower those hands down up above our heads. Our legs come down below our hips. Once we find our mat, one last stretch, making ourselves as long as we can. Should feel lots of space all through our bodies. And a big exhale from our mouths. And we'll just let everything relax. And we begin to find a comfortable position for us for Shavasana. Our knees can be bent. They can be nice and long. Our hands are just relaxed by our sides. Or we can even place one hand on our heart and one on our tummy to feel our breath as it moves through our body. We can cross our legs, find a spot. That sparks joy and allows us to just be still for a few minutes. We close our eyes. We soften our jaw. We relax all through our body. We give ourselves permission to just be. Start to deepen our breath. We'll wiggle our fingers and our toes. We'll bring some awareness back into our bodies. As we increase the movement, we listen to what it is asking for right now, a little twist or a wiggle. And then when we're ready, our knees come into our chest. We'll roll over onto our side. And we'll slowly help ourselves up to a comfortable seated position. Take this time to check in with how we're feeling right now. Inhale, lift our hands up to the sky, bringing them together at the top. And exhaling them down to our hearts with gratitude. Giving ourselves thanks for all of the gifts we gave ourselves today. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me, allowing me to help you through your practice today. I hope that you have a fantastic day and a great rest of your week. The light and the divine in me recognizes and respects the light and the divine in each of you. And when we are together, whether physically or virtually, we are one. Namaste. Thank you very much.